Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Melanie McNair. I'm the Senior Director of Public Programming here at the Center for Fiction. Um, who are you all? How did you find out about this place? How many of you have been here before? Okay, a bunch of you. So welcome back, and welcome to those of you who've never been here. For those of you who've been to events before, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk a little bit longer than I usually do because I want to tell you about the National Endowment for the Arts Big Read, which this event is a part of. How many of you know what it is? Okay, just a few of you. So the idea is to create community and conversations around one book, the same book, by encouraging a bunch of people to read it and come to events like this one. And my colleague Allison planned a reading group where people read it together. And we've got a little mini festival on Saturday, May 20th, that's happening at the Chinese American Planning Council's Beacon Center at IS 220 in Sunset Park with authors Grace Lin and Ava Chen. And that's a whole family thing. That's also all free. So if you have any interest in further stuff, come visit us on that Saturday. And we also have a National Teen Storyteller Contest. And you can find out about all of the stuff that we're doing for the Big Reads on our website. There's a special page for it. So the way it works is the National Endowment for the Arts gives a list of books every year, and you get to choose one. And when we saw Interior Chinatown, we knew it was the right pick for us. Not only does the novel take on the issue of Asian stereotypes in Hollywood, it does so in a wildly inventive way. It's written in the form of a screenplay. The novel follows Willis Wu and his family. His parents came to the US to build a life and to become American, to assimilate, but they find themselves trapped in roles and other people's perceptions of them and their own perceptions of themselves. And specifically, Willis is caught in the limitations of his own perceptions of himself and what might be possible for him. Charles likes to say that it's a story ultimately for anyone who identifies with being on the margins and dreaming of a starring role. Just a couple more things before we get started. We have copies of Interior Chinatown to give away so that you can join us in reading. And you can take one of those after the performance ends. I already told you about the event on the 20th. And I want to give a tremendous thank you to the National Endowment for the Arts, to the National Asian American Theater Company for co-presenting tonight's event and bringing these amazing talents to our stage, Penguin Random House for donating copies of the novel, and the Chinese American Planning Council for partnering with us on the whole program that we're doing, and for letting us be a part of your celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Charles is currently on set because they're filming an adaptation of Interior Chinatown in California, but he sent a video to us so that he could participate in tonight's event. So I'm going to show that to you right now.
Charles Yu, the author of Interior Chinatown. I am so honored that the Center for Fiction selected the book as part of its 2023 Big Reads program. And really grateful to the center and to the staff and all of you and to the performers and everyone who was part of or supported the events around this. I'm really sad to miss it. We're in production for the adaptation for the series based on the book, so I could not get away. But you're really, the conversations that I've gotten to be a part of since the book was published have been so rewarding and inspiring and educational for me. And no doubt I'm missing out on a lot of great conversations that would have come out of tonight's event. But I hope you all enjoy it. Just a few words, I guess, about the book. I started this book so many years ago, wanting to write about these two immigrants, Dorothy and Ming Chen Wu, and what it was like for them trying to build a life in America and become Americans. And I could not have imagined the reception the book would get, since its publication. and all of the amazing ideas and thoughts and feelings that readers would share. And it's just been really overwhelming in the best possible way. So again, thank you all. I'm really grateful and honored. And yeah, I wish I could have been there with you, but hope you enjoy. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Yay. All right. It's my pleasure to introduce our performers this evening. Fang was born in Dadong, China. He was in the national tour of Thoroughly Modern Millie. I'm just going to list the plays he was in. Golden Shield, Gollum, Julius Caesar, Low Power, Where is My Mapletown, Henry V, and in film, he's appeared in a New York Minute, Time Comes Today, and The Assistant. In television, you've seen him in Madam Secretary, The Blacklist, The Haves and Have-Nots, Mr. Robot, 2-sentence horror stories. He was trained at Columbia University. He's a proud member of SAG-AFTRA, and he says he's always looking forward to the next travel destination with his wife and daughter, and he loves his mother. And Sami Ma is a queer first-generation daughter of Chinese immigrants, enjoying the messy terrain between her traditional Chinese culture and her American upbringing. When not performing, she can usually be found in the kitchen, perfecting her family's passed-down recipes or feeding her loved ones absurd amounts of food. Her off-Broadway credits include Once Upon a Korean Time, and regional credits The Chinese Lady, Nativity Variations, The Great Leap, Viet Gone, Gloria, and 4,000 Miles. And her television and film credits include Tender Ears, Death Saved My Life, and Where the Light Enters. She thanks the Center for Fiction and the National Asian American Theater Company, and for her guardian angel, Jason K. Ma. Please welcome them to the stage.
Act 1, Generic Asian Man, Interior Golden Palace.
Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamed of being Kung Fu guy. You're not Kung Fu guy. You're currently background Oriental male, but you've been practicing. Maybe tomorrow will be the day.
Interior Golden Palace.
Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamed of being Kung Fu guy. You're not Kung Fu guy. You're currently Oriental guy making a weird face, but you've been practicing. Maybe tomorrow will be the day.
Take what you can get. Try to build a life at the margin made from bit parts.
Willis Wu, Asian actor. Kung Fu, moderate proficiency. Fluent in accident English, able to do face of great shame on command. Resume/repertoire, disgraced son, delivery guy. Silent henchman, caught between two worlds, guy who runs in and gets kicked in the face. Striving immigrant. Generic Asian man.
Your mother has played, in no particular order, pretty Oriental flower, Asiatic seductress, young dragon lady, slightly less young dragon lady restaurant hostess, girl with the almond eyes, beautiful maiden number 1, dead beautiful maiden number 1, and old Asian woman.
Your father has been, at various times, twin dragon, wizened Chinaman, guy in a soiled t-shirt, inscrutable grocery owner in a soiled t-shirt, egg roll cook, young Asian man, Sifu, the mysterious Kung Fu master, old Asian man.
Interior Golden Palace morning.
In the world of black and white, everyone starts out as generic Asian man. Everyone who looks like you, anyway. Unless you're a woman, in case you start out as pretty Asian woman. You all work at Golden Palace, formerly Jade Palace, formerly Palace of Good Fortune. There's an aquarium in the front and cloudy tanks of rock crabs and 2-pound lobsters crawling over each other in the back. Laminated menus offer lunch special, which comes with a bowl of fluffy white rice and choice of soup, egg drop, and hot and sour. A neon Qingtao sign blinks and buzzes behind the bar in the dimly lit space. A dropped ceiling room with lacquered ornate woodwork, or some imitation thereof. Everything simmering in a warm, seedy red glow thrown off by the dollar store paper lanterns festooned above. Many of them darkened by dead moths, the paper yellowing, ripped, curling in on itself. The bar is fully stocked with top shelf spirits up top, middle shelf liquor at eye level, and down at the bottom, a happy hour shelf of booze that you will regret for sure. The new thing everyone is excited about is called the lychee margaritatini, which seems like a lot of flavors, not that you've had one. They're $14. Sometimes patrons leave a sip at the bottom of the glass, and if you're quick, while you go through the swinging door that separates the back of the house from the front, you can have a taste. You've seen some of the other generic Asian men do it. It's a risk, though. The director's always got an eye out, ready to fire someone for the smallest infraction. You wear the uniform, white shirt, black pants, black slipper-like shoes that have no traction whatsoever. Your haircut is not good, to say the least. Black and white always look good. A lot of it has to do with the light. They're the heroes. They get hero lighting, designed to hit their faces just right. Well, designed to hit White's face just right, anyway. Someday, you want the light to hit your face like that. To look like the hero, or for a moment to actually be the hero.
Roles. First, you have to work your way up. Starting from the bottom, it goes 5, background Oriental male, 4, dead Asian man, 3, generic Asian man number 2, generic Asian man, number 1, generic Asian man number 3, delivery guy 2, waiter 1, and then, if you make it that far, hardly anyone does, you get stuck at number 1 for a while and hope and pray for the light to find you, and that when it does, you'll have something to say, and when you say that something, it will come out just right and have everyone in black and white turning their heads saying, "Wow, who is that? That is not just some generic Asian man. That is a star." Maybe not a real regular star, let's not get crazy. We're talking about Chinatown here, but perhaps a very special guest star, which for your people is the ceiling, is the terminal, ultimate, exalted position for any Asian working in this world. The thing every Oriental male dreams of when he's in the background, trying to blend in. Kung Fu guy. Kung Fu guy is not like the other slots in the hierarchy. There isn't always someone occupying the position, as in whoever the top guy is at any given moment. That's the default guy who gets trotted out whenever there's Kung Fu to be done. Only a very special Asian can be worthy of the title. It takes years of dedication and sacrifice, and after all that, only a few have even a slim chance of making it. Despite the odds, you all grew up training for this, and only this. All the scrawny yellow boys up and down the block dreaming the same dream.
Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamed of being Kung Fu guy. You are still not Kung Fu guy. You are currently generic Asian man number 3/delivery guy. Your Kung Fu is B plus on a good day. And Sifu once proclaimed your drunken monkey to be nearly at a level of competence that he could, perhaps at some point in the future, imagine not being completely embarrassed of you. Which, if you know him well, that's a pretty big deal. To be honest, though, it can sometimes be hard to tell with Sifu, who is famously inscrutable. If you can only show him what you've become, all you want is for him to make that face. The one that looks like internal distress, possibly of a gastrointestinal nature, but actually indicates something closer to deeply repressed secret pride honorable father has for his young but promising son. Means deliciously bittersweet pain that comes from knowing honorable teacher is no longer needed. That's how you see it in your head. He would make that face, smile, you'd smile back. Credits roll, you'd walk off arm in arm into the horizon.
Interior Chinatown SRO. Home is a room on the 8th floor of the Chinatown SRO apartments. Open a window in the SRO on a summer night, and you can hear at least 5 dialects being spoken, the voices bouncing up and down the central interior courtyard. The courtyard, in reality, just a vertical column of interior-facing windows, also serving as the community clothes drying space, crisscrossing lines of kung fu pants for all the generic Asian men, and for the nameless Asian women, cheap knockoff cheaphouse, slit high up the thigh or a bit more modest for matronly Asian ladies. Terry cloth bibs for undernourished Asian babies, often shown in montages, and, of course, don't forget the granny panties and soiled A-shirts for old Asian women and old Asian men, respectively. This interior space also acting as a conduit for information via the invisible complex and, to an outsider, incomprehensible inter-window messaging system for the building, which works in real time and is lower than the lowest of tech. Basically, you point your face in the general direction of the person you want to communicate with, and you yell at them what you want them to know. Somehow, despite the cacophony, or because of it, your recipient usually gets the message. In the long tradition of immigrants living above their place of work, the SRO sits on top of Golden Palace. It goes ground floor restaurant, the mezzanine for offices, then 7 more floors of our SRO living, 15 single-room apartments per floor, a small bathroom with shower and toilet at the end of the hall. Noises and odors from the kitchen never stop pushing up from below, day and night, year-round, even on Thanksgiving and Christmas, so that when you're sleeping, you are, in a way, still inside the restaurant. You never really leave Golden Palace, even in your dreams.
Interior Chinatown SRO stairwell, night. As you climb the stairs to your room, you pass by every floor. Each one is its own ecosystem, its own set of rules and territories. The second floor is where your folks live. You should stop by. It would make her happy. Not that she would show it, not that she would smile, more likely a scowl. You should be a better son, for a moment. But it won't be a moment. It'll be more. It will be guilt, and that heavy feeling, it will be a deep sigh. It will be heavy and unspoken, and you don't know if you can do that right now. The Chews live on 3, have lived in the SRO as long as your parents have. A daughter who was smart, but ended up working downstairs, and a son, Tony Chuk, who was luckier. Was born a boy and had a chance to move to the city, so he did. A good son, who sent money and packages of food. When you were a kid, a generic Asian boy, you'd wander by their door, hoping to catch him on the right day, and you might get lucky. Tony might give you an almond cookie from Phoenix Bakery or slip you $1 or $2 just to show off. There's no 4th floor. 4 is very bad. 4 sounds like death.
5 is where the hostess lives. 20s, pretty, exotic. She plays prostitute so often the women here have shunned her, and the men and older boys hold doors open for her and say, how can she be blamed for her beauty, while trying hard not to look too close. Her skin-tight cheongsam hugging every curve. Also on 5 is the casino, which is really just a room shared by 3 Asian gangsters. Late teens to mid-20s, tattoos, their stringy muscles and bony frames not quite filling out their crisp white undershirts, always smoking, even in their sleep. 6th floor is where the monk lives. He hasn't spoken a word in 40 years. Older brother's room was down the hall from the monk's. He was the only person the monk would allow. Their rooms on opposite ends of the floor. On 7 lives the emperor. No kid is brave enough to knock on the emperor's door. Legend has it that many years ago, the emperor played, well, an emperor. Ming Dynasty, imperial guards, and everything. Although by middle school, most kids hear the full story, which is that the emperor was the emperor as in Emperor's Delight, a brand of frozen Oriental cuisine TV dinners. Siumai and hagao just in 2 minutes, steamed buns in 3. Just poke holes in the top with your fork, place it in the microwave, and in no time, you'll be ready to feast like the emperor himself. The emperor's job was to present these plastic trays of steaming delicacies to a family of blonde people somewhere in the middle of America, and then bow to them while off-screen, in the shadows, a gong sounded. And further off-screen, in the mists of history, you could hear the collective weeping of a civilization going back 5,000 years. Afterward, the emperor would get his check and spend it on beer and rice liquor, tipping glass after glass until he was drunk enough to laugh about it, until he was drunk enough that he didn't feel shame or anything else, including his fingers and toes. Not that he had any need to be ashamed around the SRO. He had only admirers, and even today, the emperor has an imperial aura about him from that role. Not to mention diminishing but non-negligible residuals supporting his claim to the throne. A few extra bucks a month goes a long way in this building.
On the 8th floor, you find your mother standing near your door.
Have you eaten?
What? How did you...
Elevator.
Ma, you know that thing is a death trap. No good thing has ever happened in that elevator.
You were almost born in there.
I'm not sure which way that goes.
You didn't stop by.
And instantly, your face turns hot. You hug her, and reminded of how much she has shrunk in recent years. The top of her head may be reaching your collarbone if she stands up straight.
Flashback. Your mother.
The earliest memories you have of her. She is young, beautiful Oriental woman. She packs lunches for you in her off-hours costume. Flower print blouse, polyester bell bottoms. She crouches by the narrow strip that passes for counter space, assembling a small 便当, a kid's lunch divided into neat compartments. In the main section, 3 boiled dumplings filled with ground pork and bits of ginger and chopped up scallions. In the 2 smaller sections, a dollop of soft rice with yam and a handful of slightly bruised grapes. She presses the lid down tight, wraps a large rubber band around it for good measure. You're 5, you'll drop the box at least 3 times before you eat, and hands it to you. You remember 100 quiet dinners the 2 of you had, your father still at work. For dessert, more grapes or cubed cantaloupe if you're lucky. If not, a Dixie cup of diluted, fruit punch-flavored high C. Room temperature, but you don't care. You sip carefully, savoring each taste. And then when it's almost gone, turn the cup all the way over until that last stubborn drop makes its way down the waxy inner surface onto your tongue. You take the last bite of your dinner and announce that you're done. I'm full, you say. But in truth, you want a little more, and your mother knows it. She feeds you from her bowl. This close, you can smell her breath. Sharp and almost sweet. Vegetables and garlic, telling you stories about how she first came to this country, her dreams of what life would be here. After dinner, she does the dishes in the communal sink down the hall, wipes them dry and brings them back into the room, storing them under the table. In an SRO, you think in all 3 dimensions. A room isn't a layout, a footprint. It's a space, a volume. And when you start to understand that, you can't believe how much volume there is in here. You hang things, and you hang things on those things. You stack and pile and cram. You make every use of every available cubic unit of your life. Not just a floor or a schematic. You find hidden spaces within a hollow object. A hamper or a laundry basket, a box of dried tea leaves, a cookie tin. Things inside things inside things. After she cleans herself up a bit, she goes downstairs to work at Golden Palace. She works nights, mostly, and the timing is off. Her start time an hour or 2 before your dad gets home. You have a routine. You're allowed to watch television for 30 minutes after Ma leaves. Then you put yourself to bed. You remember waiting by the front door as she put on her work costume. You remember the moment after she'd gone for the night, when it was quiet, her emotional energy draining from the room, her protective field slowly dissipating.
Your mother studies from a textbook. How to make 1 million in real estate. No experience or capital needed, just a few basic principles. Location, location, location. And a willingness to work hard. The Friday nights she doesn't have work are the best. A couple minutes to 8, you look at her and she nods, and you click on the television to the Kung Fu show. The opening credits get your heart racing, the weary traveler, the white dude that they dressed up to look vaguely Asiatic, but you don't care. You're here for the sound effects. You're here for the martial arts. The steady rhythm of foot strikes, hand strikes, blows to the torso, blows to the head. Then the music kicks in, jarring, dissonant strings, conflict in a minor key, random gongs. Push in on our hero. Push in on his opponent. The eyes. It's in the eyes. It's all too much. You can't resist, and you're up, bouncing off the walls of the room. Your home, your world, a 5-year-old. You are a future Kung Fu guy in training. Kung Fu kid.
Kung Fu Kid. Someday I'm going to be Bruce Lee. You repeat it for effect. I said someday I'm going to be Bruce Lee. And then one more time. But still no answer from your mother, deeply engrossed in her textbook. On screen, 2 fighters crisscrossing 6 feet above the ground. Somersaults in the air, butterfly kicks, twisting horizontally, diagonally, 360, 720, 1080. Gravity, waiting patiently for the 2 black-haired masters to succumb. Not inevitably bound by the rules of physics like regular mortals, rather by choice, returning to Earth only if and when they feel like it, and even then in their own manner. Blue sky behind them, the midday sun backlighting the whole scene in such a way that as to wash out all details. The sweat on their temples, the feature of their chiseled, sinewy torsos, leaving only the outlines, the stylized and timeless archetypes of 2 masters being masterful. Hiya! Kung Fu Kid leaps, twists, your leg slicing through empty space, splitting the world in 2. Wah, yeah, boom! Doing your own soundtrack, gearing up for the big move. Full aerial splits, legs horizontal, toes pointed, your lower body one straight line, energy shooting from your feet in both directions. You pulled it off. For the first time ever, or so you thought. So close to completing the move, but then, as you land, your foot catching the edge of a plastic tray with your mom's pot of oolong steeping inside. The tray now tracing out its own arc through the air, everything in super slow-mo. Your mom's face somehow remaining calm through it all, the only flicker in her expression one of a momentary concern as the pot of scalding tea nearly hits you on its way down. She catches it, or almost does, the bulk of the pot landing on her palm, which must be impervious to pain because she doesn't yell or cry out, simply takes it, absorbing the blow, all of the liquid heat and force, and letting no harm come to your stupid little head. Already you can see the red marks forming on her wrist and forearm. Burns that will peel, then scar, then darken and firm up into reminders you will see years later. After you've gone to bed, you'll hear her walking up and down the hall, going door to door asking your neighbors for aloe. But no one has any, or no one has any that they are willing to part with. So she'll settle for a small glob of cold toothpaste dabbed onto the spot, left there thick and mint green. You lie awake, hearing her come back into the room, bracing yourself for her wrath or fury or guilt trip, but instead you get something else entirely. Tenderness, a softening in her eyes. It's the only thing worse than anger. Advice. Kung Fu Kid. I'm sorry, Mom, I'm really sorry.
I don't care about that. Just promise me something, okay?
Okay,
Don't grow up to be Kung Fu guy.
okay, I promise. Wait, what?
You heard me. Don't be Kung Fu guy.
Oh, then what should I be?
Be more.
Lying there in the silence, you try to imagine what she could possibly mean. Kung Fu guy is the pinnacle. How could anyone be more?
Act 4, striving immigrant.
Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamed of being Kung Fu guy. You are not Kung Fu guy. You were close there for a moment, but then generic Asian man died.
When you die, it sucks. The first thing that happens is you can't work for 45 days.
By the coffee and donuts, you run into a familiar face. Hey, Attractive officer.
Very special guest star. Here we are.
Surprised to see you here.
Why would you be surprised?
It's black and white. Thought you'd have a bigger part.
Asian men aren't the only invisible people around here, Willis. Look around.
You see what she means. A bunch of Asian dudes and black women, nibbling on bear claws, stirring powdered creamer into paper cups.
We should do our own thing someday, she says.
Yellow and black. You'll be what? Ex-CIA?
/ supermodel / mother of 4. Their dad takes care of the kids.
And I'll be?
Whatever you want, man.
A guy can dream.
Cheers to that. You touch your small coffee cups to each other's, a toast to something you both know will never happen.
Death. Why 45 days? It's the minimum length necessary, just long enough for everyone to forget you existed. Because even though you all look alike, it's still weird if you get murdered on Tuesday and by Thursday you're showing up in the background of a street scene or as a busboy. Who knows how they calculate these things? But someone did and figured out the optimal amount of time. Optimal for them, of course, not for you. Not for anyone who needs to make a living as a delivery guy or a busboy or an inscrutable background Oriental. Not optimal at all. It feels like an eternity. And no matter how much you might need the cash, whatever your sob story, sick baby, hungry kid, mom needs her medicine, casting won't even touch you for the mandatory cooling off period. Doesn't matter to them. When you're dead, you're nobody. Some people think it isn't the worst thing in the world to die because if you never die, you play the same role too long, you start to get confused. Forget who you really are.
Your mother used to die all the time. You always knew when it happened because on those days, she'd pick you up from school and she'd have taken the pins out of her hair so it fell down to her shoulders, and you always thought she looked so glamorous with her hair like that, with the makeup from work still on. You'd go back to the SRO together, and while you washed your face and neck and hands and changed into your sleep clothes, she would make you a bowl of fried rice with an egg and a few pickles. Some of the happiest times of your life were when your mother was dead because you knew it meant she would be home for the next 6 weeks. You would have her all to yourself in the afternoons. You would play with a toy or watch television, and she would sit next to you, practicing her English while biding her time between lives, always preparing for her next role, however small, for a day to be someone, if only for a short while. When she was dead, she got to be your mother.
Interior American movies, 1950s and 60s.
She'd once dreamed of being more. When she first started out as young Asian woman, she imagined a life for herself, full of romance, glamour. One of the few American stories that had made its way to the silver screen of Taipei in the 50s, an afternoon at the cinema with her father and 9 sisters and brothers sharing 1 Coke. Being the 8th of 10, she might get 1 good sip before it got taken back by further siblings up the chain. But that 1 sip was enough to save her, sitting up on her heels to get a better view, holding her father's hand and watching the perfect faces. Grace Kelly, Kim Novak, Natalie Wood, their luminous whiteness shimmering in the cool, darkened theater.
Interior, the movie version of her life, night. She's in a wine-red cheongsam, Mandarin collar, short sleeves, gold piping from neck to bottom, slits rising up each leg, Nat King Cole on the jukebox, smoke rising from the tips of cigarettes held by men sitting in 2s and 3s, all heads turning as she descends the stairs. And now her co-star makes his entrance, old Asian man, but like her, he's young, dashing. He sees her and is overcome by her beauty. Dashing Asian man, I've been looking for you.
Pretty Asian hostess. That's so? And now that you found me, what do you have to say for yourself?
He opens his mouth, but words won't come out. She waits in anticipation for him, but there's no line for him, nothing he can say. No stage direction, no action lines or parentheticals telling them what they're thinking. He looks back at the door and at her, trying to remember, but is already slipping away. The outside, the world beyond, a life they could have together if only they knew they could figure a way out, could rent a home or even dream of dreams, own one, find a job, new costumes, have names other than Asian woman, Asian men. Instead, they remain here. In the smoky room, she in her dress, he in his suit. As we pull back, we see this is a golden palace, or it was once, when the colors were brighter, the music swingier. Now is the Golden Palace Chinese restaurant.
Interior, Golden Palace Chinese restaurant, night. No less radiant in her cheongsam, she doesn't descend the stairs. Instead, she stands dutifully at the hostess station, greeting patrons as they enter.
He still wears his suit, but the tie is gone. The top button now opens to reveal an undershirt damp with perspiration. His black slacks now worn thin in the knees from bending over in the walk-in freezer, from loading 50-pound sacks of rice, from clearing tables of plates with steamed fish, braised pork, hot and sour soup. After close, he lingers, waiting to see if she'll have some tea with him. Asian man/waiter, do you have a name?
Pretty Asian hostess. Not really, no.
Asian man/waiter, why don't you give yourself one?
Pretty Asian hostess. You can do that?
Asian man/waiter, why not? It can just be for us. Didn't you have a name that you liked from the movies?
She thinks for a moment, then decides. Pretty Asian hostess. Dorothy. I'll call myself Dorothy. And you? What should I call you?
Asian man/waiter, you can call me Wu. Mingchen Wu. They talk easily, sharing a cigarette, pot after pot of oolong or her favorite, chrysanthemum, trading backstories.
She'd come from a hard background in the old country, and he smiles in recognition. Me too, both of them laughing. Striving immigrant was the only kind of work they could get. Still, they were appreciative. This was a plot that had a shape to it, something understandable. Tiny, anonymous parts for each of them, an undercurrent of social or political relevance. Hard to see the big picture from their vantage point, but they knew that behind them was a historical backdrop, that they were part of a prestigious project with the sweep and scope of a grand American narrative. So they do what it takes, make the best of a small role, just to get in.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh my God, thank you both. That was so great. And thank you all for coming. There are copies of Interior Chinatown for you to grab as you leave. And please go to the website and find out more about what else we're doing. Trying to get Charles to do a Q&A in June for everybody who's reading. So keep your eye out on the website for that too. And have a good night. Thanks.